Hello there. Welcome to everybody to Untamed, Unbroken, our sixth episode of the House Tanner Song of Ice and Fire RPG, which I suspect we are still the only Song of Ice and Fire game that's live streamed. We've got to be. But we have a fan. Like, I just want to note that our show is watched by at least one other person. Woo-hoo! Yeah, seriously. So Dale Russell, if you are out there, please keep those cards and letters coming in because we have like an action.
You're the man, Dale.
Yeah, we should put Dale in the game. Like we should make him a guard or something. Like like other Dale of Russell. Anyway, so I'm Jason. I'm the GM, and I'm going to let our players introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm James Lee, and I am playing Corlin Jast, the Hunt Master, and I believe the term it's not vassal in Ice and Fire. It's
well, if you were a noble house, you'd be a banner man or a banner. But here, but you're not. So let's call you a retainer.
I'm a retainer. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
retainer of Lord Tanner and old campaign buddy. Actually, we met on the campaign. Although I'm also from this same area that Tanner is now in charge of. And I am a hunts master and general Deadeye shot with my bow.
Right.
And a little bit older.
You have the highest body count in this campaign.
Yes, I prefer to kill people before they get a chance to shoot at me because arrows hurt.
Next.
Hi, I'm Deborah Moffat. I'm playing Benjamin. What was my last name? Stanlek.
Yes.
Who's basically a female pretending to be a male. She's the head of the men at arms. And is just trying to make sure that she never gets figured out that she's a man, not a man, because she'll be killed.
So I actually have got Sir Benjamin up on the website. If you note, I have got a web page for him now, and I think that it's right. It's got everything from your character. You haven't spent any XP yet, so that made it easy. And I also summarized what your various qualities do, like what your long blade fighter does. And things like that, and if some of your qualities gave you combat bonuses, so I just added those in already.
Awesome.
Where they were included. So your combat stats and everything are on the website, and I'll be moving on and doing somebody else next. I might do Corlin next. I think Corlin, are you still playing the character of the scout like straight out of the book?
There's a couple of adjustments to it.
Okay.
But it's like one or two. So if you don't, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Apologize for the coughing. But if you don't have my character sheet, I can email it back to you.
Yeah, right on. Okay, next.
I'm Tanner. My real name. I'm playing Will Tanner, the charming, naive, slightly disappointing to his father heir. to House Tanner.
Excellent. And that leaves Lord Tanner himself.
I'm Garrett. I'm playing Ricard, Lord of House Tanner. I acquired my lands through combat during the last war.
All right. So if you guys remember, now we've passed a month last game. And we've noted that there are some construction going on the castle as your defense went up a little bit. But more important, but this also gives you a house action. So Garrett, if you should decide that you want to use that house action, you can use it anytime today during the game. But at that point, but we may, depending on how the game goes, we may start moving ahead again. So we'll skip another month, and I'll make you make a die roll. We'll try and do all those house action stuff offline through email, if that's okay.
It's fine.
Anyway, a couple of months ago, you guys were visited by House Barnell, and Davith is the younger son of Lord Barnell, Lord Thomas Barnell, who is your northern neighbor. And Davith came to make friends, and he gave away some presents. And you sent a letter with him back home. And that letter was to his father, suggesting an alliance against the bandits of Durain's forest, which is an outlaw haven on your northern border. It's on Lord Barnell's eastern border. And if you and we have a map on the House Tanner website that shows you where all these locations are. Yeah, Durain's forest is actually in between your lands and House Barnell. Speaking of writing letters, Tanner, you weren't here last week, so I just want to remind you that I sent this on email as well. If you want Willem to be able to write and read, he needs to have language of 3.
Yeah, I read that in the book, so I believe I got that.
Oh, okay. Because if you didn't, then it's just 10 XP, and I think you may have 10 XP by now.
I think we have.
Wait, do you mean knowledge 3?
No, language.
Oh.
Tanner wasn't here last session, James, so I don't think he's got 15. I think he's only got 10.
Okay.
But Tanner,
read.
but
wait, I do have language 3.
You do. Okay.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Good. Okay, so your letter is returned. A raven arrives. No, can I send a raven? No, I can't, because Barnell does not have a Meister, so he does not have ravens. A messenger arrives from House Barnell with a letter from Lady Aliana Barnell. Now, Aliana Barnell is Lady Tanner's cousin. She is a Frey, in other words.
Right.
So, so she's a cousin, and therefore your cousin by marriage. Which I think in Westeros would be a good cousin. I think is the word that they use for when you're related by law rather than by blood. Anyway, so the messenger arrives. He's just like a horseman in mail. And he has the symbol of the house on his tunic, which is, I think, it's right. Yeah, it's a gate, like a castle gate with chains on it. I'll find the symbol of it and put it on our website. But it's like a portcullis, like a castle portcullis, over a red and blue field. And he delivers the letter. We'll say that he is brought into your audience hall, and you and Willem are both there, and he delivers the letter, which is carried to you, to Lord Tanner.
I will read the letter.
It's from Aliana, Lady Barnell. She invites you and your chosen retainers, your family and chosen retainers, to come to Castle Grenward, which is the stronghold of House Barnell, to discuss where your future partnership can be discussed in comfort and in joy. Please send word when you are to be expected, or if the stay at the castle is disagreeable to you, an alternate location for our important council.
Can anyone think of a reason not to stay at the castle?
Will, how's your knowledge?
It is. I have a knowledge 3, education, an extra die though.
Good. Anybody beat that knowledge score? I don't think so. I think Will's the smarty pants until Gary's Meister shows up. Will, why don't you roll?
Do I roll the bonus?
Let me think. Let me think, because this is like a history thing. So yeah, let's use the bonus for now, and I'll look it up later. And if I was wrong, my bad.
It's a 14.
Oh, good. Yes. Okay. Castle Glenwood is cursed.
Cool.
Well, definitely a reason to go.
Yes. Now we're going. It's a very old castle. It's like 500 years old at least. It was built by the Andals, which are, the invaders. They're kind of like they're like the first sort of civilized men that settled Westeros were the Andals, and they built the castle many centuries ago, and it's had bad luck. It's had several families have been ruling it during the reign of the Targaryens, and you remember they've all come to bad ends. And so supposedly the castle is, like no family that lives there can prosper.
Well, we're not living there. We're just visiting.
Yeah, I don't know how much I believe this stuff.
Does anybody have a real reason we shouldn't go?
Spoken like a true skeptic.
I mean, almost everybody comes to a bad end.
That's true.
Who doesn't have a haunted castle?
There you go.
Haunted, cursed,
Various families have been killed off in the castle by plague, or the castle has been sacked by enemies who have killed everybody in it. Or rebellion has murdered the entire royal family, or whatever. Yeah. So that's what Will.
Yeah, curses are just clouding bad choices. That's what I say. I say we go check it out.
There's a quote. I love that.
I love that quote. Is that real
I'm
life?
full of them.
We're going to put that on Willem's gravestone. Curses are just cover for bad choices.
And I made many of them.
Yeah, I was cursed.
Cursing means I'm not at fault.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so a reply?
Yes. We'll schedule an appropriately distant date.
Okay, like what? Like a couple of days, or a couple of weeks, or a couple of months? Like how distant?
Oh, should be like a month. I mean, this is a social thing I don't get into. I would assume it'd take more than a couple of days to get a castle ready for a troop of people.
Probably, yes. It's about a day's ride for you guys to get there.
Probably about 2 weeks.
Right, 2 weeks.
Okay. So you send a note back, I'm presuming like graciously thanking her for her offer. Would you like to roll status to see how polite your letter is?
No.
No? Okay, then don't. You have to.
Yo, lady, we'd love to come. We're
Yeah. All right, so there you go. Like, yes, 2 weeks, period.
Why
card.
are you writing me? Can we get man letters, please?
Nice. All right.
All right, so status.
Oh, you were gonna roll. Okay.
I can roll.
You can also
Kidding.
you can include breeding if you have breeding.
I do? No. I don't. Well, bad breeding.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah. 14? No, 13?
13 is good. That's challenging. You
Wait, 15.
15. That's even better. You write a very polite and courteous letter, thanking her for her hospitality and picking a perfectly appropriate date, which gives her plenty of time to prepare. And you have this letter returned by her messenger.
Yep.
Okay. 2 weeks are going to pass. Anybody want to do anything? What do you do?
I'll be training with the corps of archers and doing miscellaneous stuff, but nothing.
Corlin's best are the archers.
Yes, Corlin's best.
Okay.
So my that's pretty much it. So because I think although I'm not sure actually. Do we have a Meister?
You do have a Meister. He's a PC, and the good news is that Gary is not dead. For those of you who have been listening, my dear friend Gary, with whom I have gamed many times, and who's dearly responsible for the Broken Kingdoms fantasy hero setting, which was once published by Hero Games back in the days before PDF books were a thing, before they were cool. We published PDF games before they were cool. Gary has had like serious health problems, and I think of him all the time. But he is now in a rehab center, so he should be home soon. I spoke with him today. He's definitely still wants to play in the game, so he's definitely still in. And he will be playing the Meister. And you guys have bought a Meister with your house wealth, and you get the benefits of the Meister. So you have one, but he's just an NPC for right now. We know a little bit about him. You know, he's from the north. He was apprenticed to one of the Meisters up from the books, who's up in Winterfell.
Okay.
And he's kind of a military strategy expert as well as everything else.
Okay. So the question I have is, in the thing, would my character or the Meister be the one responsible for putting together the actual party to go to the other castle? Because I assume that this is going to be a non-trivial kind of trip. I mean, we took that trip down to Hart House, but that was more of a casual thing.
Because you are a PC and he is not here, it is your job.
All right. So I will also spend time, making sure that we'll have supplies and all that kind of stuff so that we'll have a good trip. I assume that this time, Lord Tanner, you would wish us to actually bring maybe some of our troops with us, because we are going to be negotiating for the bandits, and it might be a good thing to kind of, I'm not talking about bringing a whole unit, but I mean actually bringing like 10 or 12 men or something to kind of show like what we can contribute to the bandit fight.
Right. I want to bring, I'm going to do a couple things over this 2 weeks. I'm going to sketch up kind of a strategy, how to deal with the bandits. So at the very least, I have talking points to ideas to bring up.
Why don't you give me some talking points, and I'll have you roll warfare to decide if they're good or bad.
Oh, all right.
You can see on the map.
I'm looking.
Where the forest is. As you are attempting to come up with your plans, you are struck by the fact that you know almost nothing about the interior of the forest.
Yeah. So, what kind of forest is it? Like a really dense forest?
It is dense and hilly.
Is this like previously kind of worked land or lumbered land, or is this mostly kind of untouched? I mean, kind of what's the character?
That's a good question. Who would you ask? Because you don't know. Who would you ask? Actually, roll knowledge. Maybe you do know. Roll knowledge.
Can I roll? What is it? Survival instead?
No.
I'm the hunt master in the area.
Right. No. Roll. This is basically a history. You're like the history of Durain's forest. If you go in the forest, you could analyze it, but you're doing this from the castle.
Okay. All right. I was reaching.
Yep. Yep. Well, you can see already what you should do, right? Like at some point, you guys are gonna have to go in the forest and scout it out.
Okay.
But for now, this is what you know without doing that. Roll knowledge.
Okay. Let's see here. So I got a 3.
Okay.
I rolled a 1 and a 2 on my 2 dice of knowledge.
Yes.
I don't got them their book learnings. Maps, they don't make too much sense to the me's.
Well, you can't read, right? I mean,
no, I can't read. I'm uneducated in any kind of classical.
What you know about Durain's forest is what everybody knows, which is that it's a haven for outlaws for as long as anyone can remember.
Okay. There's outlaws in them there trees.
All right, so let's get back to Lord Tanner. So go ahead.
I'm thinking that an approach into it should probably come from a village or something where all our men kind of enter it and we set up a logistic chain.
Yep.
And just statistically eliminate brigands one hex at a time.
Right. Right.
However long that's going to take. I just want to be important. We have good logistics. We can do that from, that's a village on his southern border.
Yes, that is the village of Wellen. It's
Right.
You've never seen it.
Okay. Unless he's uncomfortable with me bringing all my troops up there.
Right.
I respect that. And then there's a little house there.
That is the inn at the crossroads.
Yeah. Or we can go start at the end of the crossroads and kind of just move through it.
Right.
So just to be clear, it's Durain's Forest that we're talking about, which is the kind of unclaimed land between us.
Precisely.
Okay. So Willem is the city that he controls or is tied to him.
It's a hamlet. It's like 20 houses.
Okay, so it's the hamlets on the edge of the forest. Technically swears fealty to him.
It is, yes.
And then the inn of the crossroads, which we've talked about previously, which is a neutral kind of space. Although Lord Tanner is eyeing it.
That's where you fought the bandits.
Yes. Okay. What's this structure on the south end of Durain's Forest?
Is it Tannerton?
No, it's north of Tannerton. It's like 2 squares north.
It's a worn down castle, I believe.
Oh, it's a ruin. It's a ruin.
So could Lord Tanner, maybe we could set up in the castle? That would give us a foothold in the forest and might be defensible.
Right, but that does mean he has to bring his men down into my land.
No, the castle's in Durain's Forest. It's in the unclaimed land.
Yeah, but I imagine we'd approach it from the south.
Why don't you, Lord Tanner, roll warfare for me, and you may add your strategy bonus. Yeah.
Woo-hoo. I don't have strategy, I have tactics.
Okay.
And command.
Strategy instead.
That doesn't count.
Street warfare.
$12.
So you are forced to confront the unhappy fact that your cavalry will not be able to fight in the forest.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I know.
So you're looking at infantry and archers, and that's your troops.
No, but they can stay on the edges, and maybe if anybody comes out.
Yeah, they can exactly. They can patrol the edges, but they can't really fight in the forest.
Right. So they could, yes, we could have them set up where we're going to kind of.
As for your plans, I note from your plans that they are all about having your forces grouped together with Lord Barnell, but you have some concern about that. The obvious response to that would be to squeeze the bandits between you. Whereas, in other words, he would form up in Wellen and invade from the north, and you would get your forces and invade from Tannerton, and you would essentially pincher the bandits, and you would herd them because they would flee. You would herd them together somewhere where your combined forces would then attack from 2 directions. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I thought about that as well. It's just that their numbers are so unknown.
That's exactly correct.
That I'm not sure how to
Yes.
afford.
But your plan of conquering the woods 1 hex at a time, the biggest problem with that is that unless you leave forces behind to keep the forest once you've cleared it, they'll just move into it as soon as you're gone.
So it sounds like one of the first things we need, Lord Tanner, is that we need to scout the forest and find out where the bandits are.
Sure.
Before we come up with a more dedicated.
We could do that to see if there's a central point. I get the impression they're kind of scattered out. And also, as we move forward, we could leave unhorsed cavalry people behind.
Yes, you have 20.
Yeah. I mean, we do have Corlin's Best. They could move through the trees a lot easier than the horsemen and not be as affected, but would need to be, from what I understand, supported by infantrymen of some type.
Right.
Or we could have some serious problems.
Well, yeah, that's kind of that was working toward that, where we'll just move through the land with the archers and support them, and our primary tactic will be to shoot them.
The main hazard to the plan that you have got is you're going to have to is securing the land before you leave it.
Yeah.
But if you can figure out a way to do that, then yes, you could clear the forest one hex at a time.
But
So,
would this involve a siege on that hold as well? I mean,
you don't know. You don't even know what the state of Rugar Hold is.
okay.
Yeah, so the other question I have is just kind of mechanical, which is I believe that we don't actually have any infantry. We have a garrison, but I think the mission of a garrison is they stay at the castle.
Well, you can move them out of the castle. They're just harder to command.
Okay.
They're not as their loyalty is very good when they are in Tannerton, but when taken out of Tannerton, their loyalty becomes not as reliable. And they become harder to command. Will, give me another education check on Rugar Hold.
$12.
Okay. Rugar Hold was built by the Targaryens in a vain and failed attempt to tame the outlaws of Durain's Forest. It's been handed to several different families who were given the orders to tame the forest. They all failed. They all eventually got killed by the bandits, one way or another. Sometimes the bandits just plain attacked the castle, infiltrated the castle, and killed them all. The last house to be given the castle got caught up in a political conflict between rival bandits and was exterminated. But it's been decades since anybody has lived in Rugar's Hold, and you have no idea what its current state is. But that was about 50 years ago that the last family was killed.
I mean, we have to imagine that they have some kind of force hold up there. It'd be silly not to.
Yeah. Another option is we find this guy who's in charge, kill him, kill his closest people, top them, pull back, and then expand into the land.
And that guy that you're thinking of, his name is Durain the Red. No, I'm sorry, Dugar the Red.
The Red.
I'll put his name in the chat window.
All right. And then if we have a new borderline, we can both expand our territories by cutting down trees towards that borderline to kind of just slowly attrition them away.
Now, this
20 years, they're not a problem. What's that?
I want to make a correction. In the previously over email, you and I, Garrett, have been talking about how you go about securing that land as far as your house stats go.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that if you defeat an army in battle to get land, you just get the land. You don't have to buy it. So if you successfully defeat the bandits and you take Durain's Forest and you can convince the king to let you keep it, you don't have to spend those 16 points to buy it. You just get it.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so that just follows the general rule of characters get to keep what they do, and as the encouraged way of expanding the house is to actually have your characters go out and adventure.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, there's a specific set of there's a specific rule set for how your house stats are affected by warfare.
Yeah, I'm just kind of commenting on the general structure of the game.
Yeah.
Because the game really rewards you to go out and adventure, not just kind of build stuff up mechanically using the house.
But in this case, you could take the land, and it would be yours. In force, it would be yours. But you still have to convince the king to let you have it.
Okay.
Right? Because he could give it to somebody else. He's the king. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was going to discuss that.
Yep.
But the fourth way I think of dealing with the forest is to light it on fire. just burn it in the summertime. You laugh. The forest will recover. It'll drive out a bunch of bandits. And then we can go in afterwards to clean it up, and it'll be more open at that point as well.
Right.
Well, here's a question for Willem. Sorry, Willem. Is it Willem or William?
It's Willem, but most people call me Will.
Will. So question for Will is like, well, we could burn it. Is like, is it possible to flood the forest or at least parts of the forest? There is a river that runs near it.
You'd have to consult the Meister probably for something that big, that kind of engineer. You have no engineers to arrange that, you know.
Oh, well.
You do not have an engineering unit.
The Barnells do have siege engineers, correct?
They do. They have an engineering unit.
Could be useful for something like that. However, I know nothing of that kind of thing.
But I think that I'm happy to relay that I think burning the entire forest down is probably impractical.
Well, I don't believe Lord Tanner was asking to burn the whole forest down.
I
Like
think
a nice undergrowth clearing, brush fire.
I was, but you don't burn forests down. I'll be clear on that. It would kill all the dead stuff, but most trees would survive long run. Next season, it'd be green. A couple years, it'd be right where it is now.
Well, you guys,
Oregonians are very.
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you guys on forest maintenance, right?
I do work for parks. Okay, so then regarding the king,
yeah,
I think if Lord Barnell and I can have an agreement on where the new border would be, have an agreement that may involve, you know, movement of the woods, freshly cut down wood.
Yep.
You know, who can have access to that? Like, for example, maybe my border is more north, but in exchange, when he needs wood, I'll grant him permission to cut down trees.
Yeah.
And I think if we have that in line and and send it to the king,
yep,
at least the king doesn't have to worry about us squabbling where the line's going to be.
Yes.
And my thoughts is the kind of the angle of attack to the king is that no one's been able to control this, so we should just split it.
Yes.
Instead of being one piece of property, and that will have less bandits.
Now, at some point, that's going to come down to an intrigue.
I understand that.
Yeah. So you'll be sending somebody to King's Landing.
So
trying to get an appointment with the king.
When are we pushing the game an hour? When are we pushing the game an hour later so Di will be here? I'm just.
Yes. Yeah, that's our hope. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think she has tons of intrigue.
She does, and so does Will. She and Will are your intriguers.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, so let's get back to the visit.
All right.
What Corlin comes to Ricard suggesting that they bring some troops along. What's the Lord Tanner's judgment on that?
I'd like to bring some that are kind of the smartest or most knowledgeable, as opposed to just people who are good at their job, but they don't think in bigger terms.
Give me a status.
What's that?
Give me a status check.
Yeah. Yeah, and Corlin's kind of thinking along the same way, is that he would bring his kind of a couple of archers, and we bring a couple of the horsemen, including whoever's kind of tentatively in charge of the horsemen. I know they're not the commander. That's not how it mechanically works, but kind of the person that's kind of the top there.
Yeah.
21.
Okay, so you are reminded of the letter from Lady Alyana, which said you, your family, and your private retainers. In other words, she didn't invite your soldiers. Now, that doesn't mean you can't bring them. But she didn't say, and 10 of your men. Right?
Oh, I was hoping to get one or two, you know, the smarter ones, the more strategic.
I say that because Corlin was saying 10 or 20 dudes. And I just
no.
No. I'm still
saying enough to be safe on the journey as well.
So, but that's just because I'm Corlin. I have status too. I'm not good at these things.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you can't bring as many people as you want. I just want to make sure that's clear.
I understand that. And I need to bring enough so we don't get robbed by bandits on the way there. Because maybe they're working for him. Right? Yeah. We're being set up. So
it is Westeros.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Lord Tanner, if you're concerned about bringing the men, I could suggest that maybe I could camp with the men outside instead of bringing them in and forcing us onto their hospitality. And then we could, if anything comes of it, you could say, I am there to scout the forest and gather information. You know, whether I do that or not is besides the point.
Well, that's a good idea. I think if you camp a reasonable distance away, there shouldn't be a problem, I would think. And that's a perfectly good reason, which is something we may need to do anyways. But I still wouldn't want to bring more than like 10 guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I bow to your greater experience, Lord Tanner.
All right, so we've got Ricard, Will, Benjamin, and Corlin. And then you want to bring some of your cavalry and some of your archers?
Just a couple horsemen and then archers, because if we do scouting, the archers are going to be with that. So if we're taking 10 people, call it 8 and 2.
Okay, done. You
pick the sneakiest of my archers, the ones that have the most woodcraft of what it is. I don't have high expectations.
Well, yeah. So as far as that goes, you can actually see what skills your forces have on the Tanner forces page, and they don't have stealth. Your scouts are not trained in stealth. They're trained in agility, awareness, and marksmanship.
What is it? I'm sorry. What's that skill called? Survival.
They don't have that either. They're not scouts. They're archers.
Okay.
They don't have survival. They're not hunters. They are. They have agility, awareness, and marksmanship.
Okay.
But regardless, okay, yes. So you pick like the 8 best. Do you want to take the kid?
Yeah, I'll bring the kid. It's a good learning experience for him.
Okay, good. So you take Stefan along. Benjamin, you can pick out a couple of the cavalry to take along.
Okay.
I added an NPC for you, by the way. Your efforts on behalf of the ferryman, because if you remember, the ferry got robbed by bandits last game.
Yep.
So when you spoke up and urged Lord Tanner to reimburse the family for their losses, I wrote up young Ned, who is the son of the now dead ferryman. The old ferryman was named Old Ned. So distinguishing him from his son is young Ned. Young Ned is actually in his 40s. Young Ned has a son whose name is Ned the Younger.
Sorry. That's awesome. That's awesome. It kind of cracks me up.
All right. So anyway, so I wrote up young Ned. He's the guy who runs the ferry.
Okay.
And he's deeply indebted to you, Sir Benjamin, because you saved his family from poverty.
Good.
All right. Anyway, so you pick a couple of the knights, a couple of the cavalry men who do not have a unit name yet. Somebody needs to think of that.
Yeah.
And then you get about 7 archers and young Stefan. Anybody else? Will, do you want to do anything? You got 2 weeks.
I was thinking I might be intrigued by this whole haunting thing.
Yeah.
This curse thing, and try to do a little looking into these rumors and a bit more specifics.
How would you like to gather that information?
Well, I tend to use my street smarts and talking to the common folk who may have heard a thing or two passed down through the generations.
It's weird. Your microphone sounds different. Did you change the?
No.
Oh, your voice sounds deeper.
It does.
You sound like Tanner, like this.
I don't know. I didn't do anything.
It does funny. You sound. I'm not the only one that noticed. So Garrett, you can notice too.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he'll say bra.
All right. So you want to use yes? Is it Streetwise? What kind of skill have you got?
Yeah, I have bonus dice and Streetwise.
What's the skill?
It's under knowledge.
It's so funny listening to you now with that different voice. I like it. All right, roll your Streetwise.
Only an 8.
Only an 8. You hear all kinds of crazy, unbelievable stories. Ghosts haunt the hallways. Rooms are the walls are bleeding. Floating helmets that appear at the top of a spiral staircase and float their way down to the main floor. There's supposedly a stained glass window that shows like a giant fist with a sword in it. And if the light hits the window, if the window hits someone at the right time of day, that means they're doomed to die. Like all kinds of just crazy ass stories.
Yeah, I'm a bit naive, so these seem implausible, but these are some of my best buds down at the bar, right? Like, would they steer me wrong?
Yeah. Oh, and while you're at it, they get you to buy a few more rounds.
Yeah. You still buy it, make up more stories.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But in all honesty, some of these stories they seem to actually believe. The belief that the castle is haunted, that they certainly believe that. That is the commonly held belief, and everybody kind of agrees that Castle Grenham is haunted. It's just too old to not have any ghosts in it, is sort of the common wisdom. Like, you have to prove that it doesn't have ghosts.
Now, are there ghosts?
What a very good question.
In general?
Who would you like to ask?
My Meister?
What you're really asking is how much magic is there in the world, right? Is that what you're asking?
That is a way of it, but I was being more specific to ghosts.
Out of character, the supernatural exists, but magic magic died out centuries ago. And actually, Will might know a little bit about this because there's, basically magic died out with the dragons. And if your Meister was here, he could tell you that there's a whole branch of knowledge in Old Town devoted to the study of magic, and none of the spells work anymore. Like, we have records that show that they used to.
Oh, okay, good. That answers my question, actually.
But now they don't. And yet, there's a lot of strange things that go on. I mean, nobody can deny that dragons did exist. And there's still lots of weird things that happen around. And people now in character, it's perfectly reasonable to believe in ghosts in Westeros.
Okay.
Yeah. So, could be, but you can be a skeptic. Skeptics are fun.
They are.
Anybody else before we take the trip?
I want to start getting some training for the Men-at-Arms. So if we do go to the forest, so kind of get a training pattern. Also, since we'll be taking people out of our house to go with us, we don't want to leave us, empty or not.
All right. So if you look at the Tannerton guards, the guards have awareness, endurance, and fighting. They typically wear hard leather armor. I think it's like studded leather or something. And they carry spears. Yeah, hard leather armor and spears. And they're reliable with their endurance. They can take a hit. They're competent fighters. And because they're guards, they're very perceptive. They're good at standing guard. What they do not have are a lot of the things you would want in a forest, like survival or stealth. They also do not use ranged weapons. But you can lead some of them in small groups into along the forest edge. And if you on your map, you can kind of see along your northern border is where the forest is, and you can lead them across the river. But they're not familiar with the forest, so it's sort of the point of your patrols, right? So it's like get them more used to going into the woods.
Right.
Yeah. If you want to try and train in the forest without the risk of getting jumped by bandits, there are light woods on the western edge of Tanner's Lands. There are some woods there. They're not dense. They're not heavy. But they're also a lot safer than actually crossing the river and going into Durain's forest with your patrol.
Okay. Yeah. Even if have some of the the archers that are left here, maybe have them take out some guys, and maybe at least teach them how to walk through the woods without, you know.
Do you have any warfare?
Yes.
You do. Outstanding. So you have some experience commanding troops. That's what warfare is good for.
Right.
I think that there's actually a skill that you use to teach. If you actually wanted to sort of teach people, I forget what skill that is. I don't think it's called teaching, but it's a. I think teaching is a specialization of some other skill. And if you wanted to be good at, you know, teaching people how to fight, for example, or something like that, you could do it with that skill. I have to find it. Do you have any kind of like survival skill?
No.
Okay, so you're not really good in the woods yourself.
No.
I mean, you're brave, so you don't worry about bandits attacking you. But you're not particularly good when it comes to teaching people how to do things, how to get around in the woods. Oh, here it is. Train. Oh, that's animals. Never mind. That won't help you. Okay, well, I'll figure it out later. All right, but you lead a few patrols into the woods and try and get some of the men prepped up to the idea. What the main effect of this is that the men start saying, "Oh, we're going into the forest." Like the rumor starts to spread through your soldiers that you are preparing for an invasion of the forest.
Okay.
All right. A couple of weeks pass. And you get your party together and you set out north. I presume you're taking the road.
Yes.
So the King's Road is safe, patrolled by the King's men. And you go north for a few hours, and then is everybody mounted? Is everybody on horseback?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
Now.
Yep. All right. So you ride north for a few hours, and then the road bends slightly west, but still mostly north. And you take that for a few more hours, about 4 or 5 more hours north. You probably stop for lunch somewhere along the way. I actually will. The lands on the eastern side of the road, I have not assigned to a house yet. They do belong to some house. I don't know which one, but I'll fill it in at some point. You camp along the road, and then you resume travel, and then a couple of hours into your travel, you find a road that leads away from the main King's Road through the forest straight towards Castle Grenward. It's not on the map. It's a small road that should lead from the King's Road directly west to Castle Grenward. And when you arrive at that spot where that road is, you find some men waiting for you. A batch of about half a dozen knights, well, not knights, mounted soldiers, led by 2 men. They wear, they have the symbol of House Barnell on their shields. So the portcullis on a red field with a blue sort of diamond shape on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is an old veteran commander, a little bit older than Ricard. And the other is a young man who looks about in his early 20s, a little bit older than Will. And the elderly man sort of clops his horse forward a little bit. Looks like they were kind of waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
And he doffs his helm and says, "Greetings to House Tanner. On behalf of Lord Thomas Barnell, I am Kieran Orell, the captain of the Lord's Guard. This is the Lord's eldest son, Garrett Snow." And just because it wasn't confusing enough to have a guy in the game whose name is Tanner, we also have a guy in the game whose name is now Garrett.
Is this your subtle way of calling me a bastard?
It is not, because I would call you that to your face.
That is true.
The young guy sort of lifts up his hand. Hello.
Hello. I'm Ricard, Lord of House Tanner. This is my son, Willem. This is head of my archers, Corlin. And this is my
Master at Arms.
What's that?
Master at Arms.
This is my Master at Arms, Benjamin.
Sir.
Sir Benjamin. Apologies.
Trying to save you from the stink guy there, Garrett. All right. Garrett Snow, he sort of looks at everybody as they're introduced. Meets eyes with Will, who's sort of his contemporary in House Tanner. Willem Tanner, I've heard about you. I wanted to come down and share a drink with you. I hear you have some great stories to tell.
I've heard about you as well. I'm excited to see the great Castle Grinwald.
Oh, it's a dour, ugly place. I spend as much time out of it as I can.
I don't know. I've heard some exciting things go on in that castle.
Well, there have been some exciting things, but I guarantee you they didn't have anything to do with ghosts. And this Kieran gives a harumph. Yes, well, there will be enough time for young men to tell stories about their lady pursuits once we arrive at Lord Barnell's estate. Now, if you'll come with us, we will lead you the remaining way to the castle. And there is much harumphing on the part of Kieran.
We harumph our way to the castle.
Okay.
I didn't hear a harumph from that man.
All right. So it's a few more hours through the forest. Kieran is an old-time campaigner from the War of the Usurper. So Ricard, he's basically from your generation, right? He helped fight. He fought alongside Lord Barnell, and he was rewarded with a position, much in the way that you awarded Corlin a job, right?
If there's a single thing that really stood out from his actions, and I know it, I'll bring it up and tell him I remember it, and make a small conversation about it.
Sure, yeah, sure. Are you? If you want to try and improve his disposition towards you, and you want to make him like you can roll a quick intrigue on him. Did I lose you?
No.
Okay, no, you're just I don't want to roll dice. Okay.
No, I just feel I'm not good at it, and the failure of it will only hurt the negotiations when I need to do intrigue later.
Okay, roll let's see if you remember anything about his deeds though. Right. Gosh, what would that be? Probably knowledge. Or no, yeah, probably knowledge. If you have heraldry, heraldry is a specialization of status.
No. Six.
Okay. You don't remember, except you remember that he was basically with Thomas at basically every important battle. You always are you remember that. He's sort of like Thomas's right-hand man. So you worked that in a conversation, and he sort of nods knowingly. Oh, yes. I've defended Lord Barnell against all sorts of crazy machinations and fiendish plots and Northmen and Crannogmen and Targaryens and just about every sort of crazy threat you could mention. I built the armed forces of House Barnell up from scratch, I did, all by myself.
Oh, well done.
Yes, indeed. And it's about time that we use them too. Anybody else want to do anything on the short journey to the castle?
Getting the lay of the land.
Okay, it's a forest. It looks the House Barnell lands are fairly well populated. As you travel through the woods along the road, you can see like, you know, sort of lumber cabins. Woodsmen live in the forest. This is very safe territory, it seems. It's not like the Durain's forest to the south. The people here are pretty poor. Not as prosperous as the people of Tannerton.
Oh.
They seem pretty safe. There's a lot of little houses, but they're not wealthy or prosperous.
How does the land look? Is it like just the land is bad, or is it just that?
No, in fact, it's your. Well, why don't you make a roll? Roll awareness.
12.
The forest is pretty well tamed, in your opinion. The road is well maintained. It looks to you like the forest it's basically plains with heavy woods and a road leading through it, and it looks to you like the people that live here take pretty good care of it. And the king, not the king, I'm sorry, Lord Barnell, seems to value things like logistics. There's signs that the land is well maintained, probably so that he can rapidly move troops along it.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. After a couple more hours, you emerge from the forest and you see Castle Grenward. It is an ancient and forbidding castle. It's not huge. It's actually rather small, but it is very strong. As you approach it, as you get closer, you see its walls are very large. It's got and there's one main gate with a portcullis, which you can clearly tell was the inspiration for their house symbol. And it's got guards. Let me see. There's a garrison of troops at the castle, and when you enter the castle, you see you go through the gate, and there's a very large inner bailey, a large grounds inside the castle walls, where you see Barnell's elite military unit, the Company of the Morning Star, practicing drilling. They use the Morning Stars that their unit is named after, and they have a unique symbol on their tunics of the sun. And you see some stables and barrack houses, bunkhouses for the soldiers. It's a big yard in the castle. In the northeast corner is a single large tower. It's, I think, 4 stories high, which is pretty good construction for non-magical technology. And that large tower is essentially what we would call, in castle terms, the keep. It's the stronghold to which everybody retreats if the walls of the castle fall. And it's high. It's got you can imagine that you have a pretty commanding view of everything for many, many miles around, including all of Durain's forest from the top of Castle Grenward. nothing is said or mentioned about your troops. So unless Corlin wants to do something, you're all led into the yard of the castle. I know Corlin was saying you might camp outside. But,
right. So I want to tell. I'm glad you brought it up. And I want to say to them, I'm getting weird echo. Somebody that I brought them because they may want to explore the forest and see what kind of terrain it is, and they're perfectly fine camping outside. They weren't expected. Wherever they're comfortable, them camping will do.
Garrett says, "Oh, I'm sure we can find a place for them in the bunkhouse. We've got plenty of room."
Well, thank you.
And if they want to go exploring into the forest, I'll show them the way.
Very kind of you.
And maybe we can get some action while we're in there. All right. Your men wait in the yard. There is a steward which emerges. Yeah, we are getting an echo from somebody. But anyway, a steward emerges. He introduces himself as Ferris, not like Ferris Bueller. Ferris Lead. And he takes charge of your men and finding them a place to stay and their horses to be stabled. And he informs you that the Lord and Lady Barnell await you in the audience chamber.
Oh, excellent.
I'm presuming all four of you go up the castle steps to the what we would call the first floor, which is not the ground floor. Ground floor, first floor.
Yep.
Go up the steps to the first floor, and you enter an audience hall, which is old and impressive with its age. It's not particularly fancy or anything. In fact, it's pretty Spartan in its decor. But it has the immense weight of centuries behind it. It's a very old, distinguished castle. Lord Barnell is waiting while his wife and her son chat. And you are announced. And he, like before the herald has even finished announcing you, Lord Barnell stands up. You can tell he's not like a sit in the throne kind of guy. And he stands up and walks towards you and extends his hand out to Ricard and says, "Well met, Lord Tanner."
Well met, Barnell. Shake his hand.
Thomas Barnell is very similar to Ricard in many ways. You guys both were kind of nobodies before the war. You kind of made your fame in the War of the Usurper. The main difference is that you were helping out Hoster Tully, and Thomas was helping out Eddard Stark in the north. But he's about the same age as you, with kind of grizzled, blonde, now gone white hair, and a very much of a military bearing about him. He's a fighting man and not one for all of this courteous court frippery. He's wearing mail and a white tunic over it, and a cloak, which is his only real gesture towards his station. I will note that House Barnell is lower in status than you. You are a status 4 minor house. They are a status 3 minor house. So he's a knight. He's a lord, but he's the lowest level of lord. Right.
No Davith.
Davith is here.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So you see Aliana, who is your cousin. Aliana is younger than Thomas. You know that they married relatively recently. She is a very dignified woman in her 30s, with dark hair and dressed in pretty simple clothing, thick sort of layered cloak and robe underneath. Looks like she gets cold easy. And she's chatting with her son, with whom she has a strong family resemblance, Davith. And you remember Davith from when he visited Tannerton some time ago. He's got kind of longish, shoulder-length black hair, kind of a slender face, a long kind of hawkish nose, and he wears kind of simple black clothes most of the time.
And gives great gifts.
He does.
He's a nice guy. I like him.
Yeah, that's right. You do. You like him. He stands up and comes over and shakes Will's hand and gives a very courteous gesture, very deep bow to Ricard. Sir Benjamin, Corlin, it's a pleasure to see you again. Thank you for accepting my father's invitation. Yes.
Always a pleasure, my lord.
Honored to be here.
Well, we have much to discuss, Ricard, and I'm sure that your Master at Arms and Master of the Hunt will be a part of that strategic council. I propose that we have a feast tonight. My wife has arranged everything, and you're welcome to stay in rooms up in the castle, up in the tower. My sons have graciously loaned their rooms to you and your son. But your retainers, I'm afraid, will have to stay in bunkhouses in the yard. The tower has no extra rooms.
That's fine.
And I hope that that this is only the first of along many meetings that we. He sort of stumbles for his words. He's clearly not a big public speaker. It's my hope that we can forge a lasting alliance. Yeah, that's it. Lasting alliance.
Yeah, it's my hope we have a long and prosperous alliance. Get rid of those pesky bandits.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, Durain the Red is, I think, a menace not to be underestimated. No serious threat now, of course. They're just bandit rabble. But over time, he could grow to be quite serious, and we should prevent that from happening.
Have you had any encounters recently with these bandits?
Well, the bandits don't dare enter House Barnell territory. They're not that stupid. But they have raided the King's Road. I have no scouting forces myself, so I have not probed too deeply into the forest. Rugar's Hold is only about a day's march through the woods. So we haven't gotten too close on the assumption. I believe the bandits are certainly camped at the castle.
That would make sense.
That's the strategically strongest point for them. But I have no scouts and no. Well, we can talk about all of this. No, we'll talk about it now. Come with me. We'll walk. Walk with me. Ricardo. And he just kind of like walks off, and Davith's like, well, so much for the War Council. But he says, come, all of you, and we'll
right.
They have some chairs brought up, and like Thomas walks off with Ricard, like sort of puts his arm around Ricard, and he's like immediately talking tactics, like that's all he wants to talk about.
Excellent.
Chairs are brought up around the audience hall for the rest of the retainers, so Will and Benjamin and Corlin, and you're all soon sitting down to break your travel fast with Lady Barnell and Davith. Oh, and Garrett. Garrett Snow also takes a seat and makes himself welcome. Salt is passed around, which of course is a Westeros custom. It means that they are extending hospitality to you, and you are now under their lawful protection. If anything happens to you guys in the castle, it is their responsibility, and it's their failure to protect you. So one of the most serious customs in Westeros.
Oh, wow.
So aside from Ricard, any of you have anything you want to chat about or want to know or do with the lady Barnell and the others?
I want to chat with Garrett and find out what they've been doing about the bandits, what kind of their, I know the Lord wants to do and what we do sometimes is a little different.
Well, Garrett's happy to talk to you. He wants to know all about your adventures. He wants to know what kind of action you've seen. Have you heard you went to the tournament? How'd you do? He wants to know like the blow by blow of all the fights. He's like very into that. You want to know what they've done against the bandits? The answer, not really anything. My father patrols the borders of the land endlessly. Kieran's men, the company of the Morning Star, they're mostly in practice. But I lead the River Run Riders, which is our cavalry force, and we patrol the borders. Quite frankly, none of the bandits have been brave enough to try to attack any of our farms or ranches inside House Barnell territory. I wish they would. Then I would get to show them a taste of Barnell steel.
So it's mostly they're attacking along the road.
That's right. My father is convinced that they pose a great threat. Frankly, I don't think they're that serious. Durain's force has always had outlaws in it. I don't think they're, Durain the Red he's old. How much longer can he last? Time wounds all heals, as my mother used to say.
True. Has there been an uprising? I mean, why is he so concerned all of a sudden? Has there been an uptick in how many times they've been raiding, or is it just that he's tired of having them around?
I thought this was Lord Tanner's idea.
It is, but we had heard that there was some concern about.
Aliana she just kind of sort of gestures like House Barnell is not concerned about bandits. And Davith goes on a little bit. He sort of amplifies on his mother's words and just says, I think we're mostly concerned about the danger that the bandits might pose in time. But they are well organized. And while we're happy to stay within our borders and see to our own business, Lord Tanner's proposal suggested something lucrative to both of our houses. I suggest that our interest is not so much in defending our own, because we're not in danger, but rather a potential way of improving the fortunes of our house.
Which is always a good thing to do.
Indeed. Ricard, you and Thomas are talking strategy and tactics.
Great.
He's a big fan of the squeeze them from north and south strategy. To him, this seems like the logical way to go. Like his troops would invade from the north, your troops would invade from the south, the bandits will probably flee, and then we just sort of herd them towards each other. The big problem with this strategy that you can see is coordinating the movements of the two pinchers. Right?
Yeah.
We don't have cell phones or sat radios. So how do we communicate? How do we coordinate those two different armies moving at two different times through a dense hilly forest?
Well, traditionally, you would beforehand schedule times to begin ideal stopping places and then send messengers back and forth.
Do you have, he asks, do you have any forces that could reconnoiter the woods reliably.
Not really. We don't have a lot of scouts.
Well, I'm hesitant to invade without more intelligence.
Right, and that's a concern I had. That's why I was thinking one of the options could be to join forces and push into the castle.
Hmm.
If we can get some sort of logistic train to the castle to maintain.
Well, Welland has plenty of supplies. It's a small village, but it's well stocked and well maintained.
As far as
if you're willing to send supplies for your own troops to Welland, we can use it as a logistics center.
Great. That would be fantastic.
Very well.
But yeah. The more I think about it, the more I'm a fan of pushing to the castle. At least it's an opportunity to see what we're up against.
Right.
Because we don't know how organized they are. That's a big concern.
You guys spend a lot of time talking about, the nitty gritty, the boots on the ground.
Yeah, we totally nerd out.
You know that he also has some cavalry, which will basically be useful only to guard Welland in case, or patrol the edge of the forest like you. But he'll be relying on the company of the Morning Star and his garrison, Company Grenward, to do a lot of the military work against the bandits. Now, his siege engineers will be helping to, if we're going to move to the castle, then he'll bring the siege engineers along to clear out and rebuild whatever they can at the castle to make it into a defensible structure. And you can move to the castle, invest it, and his engineers will strengthen it, and you can make it into a base for further exploration of the forest.
Oh, I hadn't considered siege engineers. That's an excellent idea. It's like 3 miles from his border, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Less, maybe like 1.5 miles.
All right. I'll be bringing. I'll be leaving my garrison, but bringing up my archers, and my cavalry, which may pull double duty in, perhaps removing parts of the forest.
Well, give me an empathy check if you have it. It's awareness, empathy.
I don't have empathy.
Okay, roll awareness.
I didn't think it'd be necessary in the game of Westeros.
Empathy is like sense bullshit skill. It's like your ability to read people.
Oh, 7.
You don't feel sorry for them. You just need to read them.
You sense he's a little disappointed that, as far as you can tell, you're basically bringing 100 men. Like, your cavalry can't come into the woods. They can't fight in the woods. Your garrison, you said you're not going to bring. So that's just basically 100 archers. And he's got twice as many. He's got 200, not counting the siege engineers. So he feels like he's doing all the work.
Right. Well, I sense that, and I say, well, I was concerned that we're pushing them south, so I don't want to leave my land defenseless. But I can swap that out. I can bring up the garrison and leave the cavalry behind. I think that might be more effective. What do you think?
I think we both have an equal horse in the race. That's what I think. And we will need every man.
But is he proposing that they would install themselves in the hold?
I think that you guys don't really know, because you don't really know what's at the castle. So it's kind of like, we're going to push to the castle and then see what we do from there. I think that's the plan, as far as what Ricard has come up with.
Right. I don't think we have enough intel to go beyond that. That would just be overreaching.
He actually, well, you guys, so time passes. you guys have traveled all day, so you are shown to your rooms. Ricard has, let me think. Yeah, Ricard, you're given Garrett Snow's room. And he freely admits this. He's like, oh, well, you can sleep in my room. And it's it's comfortable. It's a nice room on the upper floor of the tower. You've got a great view. He's got a very handsome bed. Since you're by yourself, it's only you. He says, I can tell you some stories about what's going on in this bed, Ricard. Can I call you Ricard?
Sure, but I'd rather not hear about what other people were doing in the bed I'm going to sleep in.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I suppose you're right. We can change the sheets. Meanwhile, Will, you are Davith takes you up to his chambers, which are across the hall from Garrett's, and his chambers are a little small, more Spartan, but he's got some books, a little bookshelf, and you can see his little writing desk. And
very tastefully decorated, Davith. This is
you
do a lot with a little. Is really what I'm seeing here.
Well, he accepts the compliment, whether it's here or not. He says, my brother doesn't even know how to read.
I kind of gleaned that.
I like Garrett. I like him, but I'll tell you, Will, if he becomes the heir to the house, if he inherits House Barnell, we're doomed.
Why do you say that?
Well, because you've met him. You've known him for 1 hour. Does he seem like he'd be very good at running a house?
Yeah, he doesn't have your sensibilities, but do you have reason to question your claim?
Well, we don't have an official heir. I'm not the official heir.
Oh.
Because I'm not Lord Tanner's blood son. My mother bore me from her first husband.
Yeah, I know.
who died who died from a sickness soon after I was born. My mother believes that she's cursed.
Really?
That's why Walder Frey married her off to Lord Barnell. He thinks that between her curse and the castle's curse, House Barnell is doomed, and once House Barnell is dead, Walder Frey can press his claim and take all this for his lands, for his own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that to happen, Will. And I can't convince my father that I could lead the house. I'm not a fighter, and that's all he wants. Fighter.
Certainly I empathize with that. I'm not in as tricky of a situation as you are, but I totally understand the position you're in.
Didn't your stepmother just have a baby?
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
Well,
I feel like I've, I'm well instantiated in the house. The people love me. I can't even imagine that child. And I trust my father. I think he'll hold my claim.
Something unexpected things happen to people, Will. Can't predict. Well, anyway, he claps you on the shoulder. I thought that you and I might have some things in common, and that's why I'm confiding in you like this. I hope that we can become friends.
I appreciate that, and you can definitely look to me for counsel if you need it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, don't mess up my room. I'll see you in the morning. That night is a feast. Benjamin and Corlin, you guys are led out to the bunkhouse. Davith and Garrett are temporarily bunking in the bunkhouse, and so they've cleared a bunch of the soldiers out, and you guys are basically sharing the bunkhouse with Garrett and Davith.
Okay.
Great, more people I can run out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That
night is a feast, and you're all invited.
Cool. And Corlin's going to be taking his duties with Benjamin of like trying to make sure the men are taken care of and behave themselves, and he's going to remind his archers specifically, behave yourselves.
Okay.
We're here to make a good impression. So
do you roll warfare? If you have command, you can roll.
I do not. But the reason why I've been bringing this up recently is I plan on buying Warfare 3.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, if you want to do it now, you can make this your defining moment.
All right. I'm going to do the Warfare 3. So
okay.
It's 10 points, right, to go from 2 to 3, you were saying?
10 points to go from 2 to 3.
All right. So that's what I am doing.
Okay, very good. Roll 3 dice for warfare.
Right here.
You can just see the command coming through him as he stands.
He's been leading the archers. He's been drilling them, and he's got like a little fan. He's got like mini Corlin, little Stefan Longarm following him around everywhere, and he just looks up to Corlin like he's got like great big eyes, and he's like, Master Corlin is so wise and a veteran of so many things, and and then that boosts Corlin's confidence. He's like, I gotta look good for the kid, So he's like.
Oh yeah, I've been avoiding this my entire career, and now I find that it is thrust upon me. I got a 12.
All right, very good. All right, so you keep the archers. Yes, sir. And they're all like, "Well, what's gotten into him?" And one of the archers says, "It's the kid." Totally the kid. All right. That night is supper. Lady Aliana is dressed in a finer gown. Still very dark colors to go with her dark complexion, dark hair. Thomas is wearing the exact same thing he wore when you arrived. Like, why would I change? And the feast is it's pretty simple food. Like, you cannot help but notice that this family is not as wealthy as yours is. Like, you guys all eat on silver plates. These guys eat on House Barnell eats on pewter, right? They're not so poor that they're eating on wooden plates, but they don't have they don't have the fancy stuff. But you eat out of pewter dishes, and you're served a wine, which is a good, reliable local wine, not expensive, but serviceable, good table wine. There's a lot. There's simple food, but a lot of it. So you get like lots of roasted boar and venison, grilled salmon from the river, strawberries plucked from the river's edge, fresh loaves of salted bread. It's a simple but abundant spread.
Excellent.
Anybody want to bring anything up, or there'll be a lot of conversation, but if you want to start any of it, feel free. Where was my notes? Here we go. Kieran loves the old soldier. He loves telling embarrassing stories about his lord, so he never misses a chance to do that. He tells a story about how when his lord, because his lord apparently was a child up in Winterfell, up in the north, and there was that time when he played horsey with old Lord Rickon Stark, and how he got in a wrestling contest with Mage Mormont and lost. And Thomas is just like, he's doing like the Picard face plant, right? Other sort of news. This is a big time to sort of spread news around and share what they've heard. Willem, you've heard through your friendly contacts back in Tannerton that Lord Tully, your house's lord, has finally gone bedridden. He's been sick for a long time. He had like some kind of illness for a couple of years now, and he's not a young man. He's old, but everyone sort of was hoping he would kick it. But he's now apparently gotten so weak that he's become bedridden, and so now it's just a matter of time. He's basically in hospice, right? They don't know how long he's going to last. But when Hoster Tully dies, his heir is his only son, Edmure Tully, who is a little bit older than you. He's like in his late 20s.
Well, I'll lead a toast to Hoster Tully.
Oh, nice. Very well done. Well, of course, that's not. They still raise their glasses and drink.
Yeah.
But that's not their lord. They're sworn to Stark.
But they still have affection, I think.
Well, especially because Caitlin Stark is a Tully.
Yeah.
So they're like to Hoster Tully and his daughter Caitlin. And they're happy to drink that because they fought beside the Tullys in the War of the Usurper.
And can I pull Garrett aside very briefly and just kind of play a little dumb and say, I hadn't heard if your father had named an heir yet. And I was wondering what that situation. I don't want to be indelicate, but I was just wondering about that situation.
You want to try and intrigue him, or you want to just ask him?
I'm just asking. I just want to gauge where he's at.
He says, "Oh, my father wants to give me the house. Boy, would that be a disaster."
You don't think you're capable?
Oh, of course I'm capable, but is that my father? My father adores me ever since the death of my mother. I'm the only thing that he's got. He would give me the world if I asked for it. I don't want to run a house. Where's the glory in that? Where's the adventure?
Yeah, you feel you belong in the battlefield.
Well, he looks over towards the table where you can see Thomas and Ricard, looking at a map of Durain's forest. He's like, "Do I want to turn into that?"
Oh, you will. You will.
Spoken like a true father. He says, "No, thank you. I want to be my own man. Like you are, Will. I mean, look at you. Who would have, if I didn't know that you were Ricard, Lord Tanner's son, I couldn't pick you out."
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah,
Thank you.
He clearly admires that. I mean, you should take it as a compliment because that's how he means it. He says, "No, I want to win I want to win a reputation of my own. I don't want to be. I'm a Snow. I have a name to earn."
Yeah, and you don't want to be sitting in a castle dealing with petty squabbles among.
The only time I want to be in a castle is when the bed is warm and curvy.
Whoa. This Garrett, I tell you.
Yeah. Like his interests are pretty specific, right? Like, okay, women, glory, adventure.
Well, if you ever come down to Tannerton, I'll show you a good time.
Hey, have you ever been to Hart House?
I have, haven't I?
Yes, you have. Yeah,
I have. Yes, I have. Oh, all the time.
There.
I've heard they throw amazing parties down there, and I've heard that Lady Barteld is a vision.
She's something. Yeah. She was a swan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How faithful is she, husband? I hear blacksmith.
You know, I don't know. But if there's anyone to win her over, it'd be you, Garrett.
I knew I liked you, Will. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Meanwhile, back at the table, Orel is repeating some foreboding news that he's heard around the lands. A couple of old farmers say that they saw one of a Lannister soldier leading a troop of men through the area, and not just any Lannister soldier. They said it was the Mountain. Does everybody know who we're talking about? The Mountain.
Yep. You do.
Yeah. Gregor Clegane. The guy who the designer of this game, Robert Schwab, describes the Mountain as the most min-maxed character in the game, which I thought was great. They say that the Mountain has been leading Lannister forces on some sort of mission in the area. I'm sure it's a rumor. Why would he be here? But I thought you should know. Thomas nods. Well, I don't want any truck with the Lannisters. We're in no position to fight a great house.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, fight? We're going to give him whatever he wants, right?
Well, they do repay their debts.
Yes. Maybe we could help them. Maybe whatever they're looking for, we could help them with.
That's certainly on the table. They are Lannisters, so I want to be very certain of what we're getting into.
He asks Alyana, could you try to find out what the Lannisters might want in our lands? Perhaps we can aid them. And Alyana just kind of nods. She's very quiet. She just kind of nods slowly and with that expression that says, I'll take care of it.
It's going to be troubling.
Yeah.
Davith says, well, I've heard the Blackwoods and the Brackens are at it again. Now, you guys all know about this. This is an old family feud in your region. The House Blackwood and House Bracken have been fighting for hundreds of years. They have old family feuds. These are your western neighbors, by the way. They're along the Red Fork. So they're not on the map yet, but they would be past Riverthorn to the west. In fact, I might put one of them in that little arrow-shaped triangle that doesn't have anything in it.
Right. Makes sense.
And Davith tells you the story. Yes. Sir Hendry Bracken, apparently he led a small group of men into House Blackwood's territory and took control of a bridge over the river and challenged any knight to best him. And he was there for a week, just humiliating any Blackthorn knight that dared to challenge him. I don't know what the Blackwoods will do. Probably nothing. But there's one thing this area does not need. It's another little war. The thing that you would know about these two families is that the Blackwoods are friends of the Starks, while the Brackens are vassals of House Tully. Now, technically, they're both vassals of House Tully, but the Blackwoods have old friendship ties to the north. And your feeling at the table is that Lord Thomas knows them, like he's friends with them. Okay. Anybody else?
I'm gonna at some point bring up how we're gonna approach the king.
Oh, the king.
Well, if we divide up the land, I think he's gonna have final say on that.
Right. You got a map. A lot of the time that has been spent sort of debating over where the line is going to be.
Sure.
Would
we intrigue for that?
You could definitely intrigue for that. If you want to do that now, or you can put it off. Barnell, Thomas seems willing to put it off until you've defeated the bandits. Like step 1, secure the forest, then figure out where the line is. But if you want to try and do it now, you can.
Nope. I'll wait.
Now, there's a fair way to do this, which is to divide it evenly in half with 7 hexes in each half.
But the hold is not even, right? Whoever gets that hold gets more.
The castle is in the north, so that's like 1.5 miles from House Barnell. Then there's the ruins in the south.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really know. You inevitably, if you divide it into a north and a south, the castle is going to go in the north. This castle is going to go to House Barnell.
Yes, that's a given.
But if you want to try and figure out, like, well, should we? Maybe he would not have as much land. In return for the castle, that would be definitely an intrigue, because ordinarily in the normal rules that wouldn't matter. Domains have a certain number of leagues that they have to encompass, and that doesn't mean you can't move that border. It just means that you're going to have to win a contest. That would be an unfair distribution according to the regular rules of land distribution.
Really, even though that's like an asset?
It just means that that's correct. Yes, the land does not care what's on it.
Oh.
The land is just hexes. It's acres. In this case, they would probably just call it leagues. Like it's a domain is a certain number of leagues, and what's on it doesn't matter. But that doesn't mean you can't try to make it matter, right? I'm perfectly willing to do that. But if you're willing to put off drawing the line, then so is he.
Yeah, just the more I think about it, the much more it just kind of hinges on that castle, taking that, what's there, and so on.
Yeah, you guys just don't know what's in there.
If the castle's like not in good repair and it's ruined, then it's a non-factor to me. If it's in good shape, someone's been maintaining it, then it is. It's just really that simple.
He would really like to, before we plan anything more, that we explore the forest with some reliable scouts. Can you arrange that?
Can I arrange that? I mean, I don't have scouts.
That would be basically a PC mission.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
In other words, you would send Benjamin and Corlin and Will if he wants to go, and right?
I can put together a group.
Okay. Now, the other way to go would be to actually raise a military unit of scouts. Like you would basically buy another military unit.
Right.
And that would probably take a few months. But you would have 100 scouts when you were done. Right now, you only have 1 point of power, so you would need to put some points into power to do that. But you could build a unit of scouts, or you could take one of your current units, like the archers, and you could train them in stealth. And where you would, instead of, you have 2 kind of military options here. Option number 1, create a new military unit that would be either guerrillas or scouts. Option number 2, take your current military unit, the archers, and just add guerrilla or scout to them. In that case, you'd have to raise their training levels. Right now, there's like 4 degrees of military units, like their level of training. And right now, your units are trained You'd have to raise them to veteran, which would give them XP. And then you'd add a new skill or two to their roster by training them as either guerrillas or scouts. And they would spend that new XP on those new skills. So you would basically be training your archers to also be scouts. And they would get either stealth and endurance or stealth and athletics. And that would be marginally cheaper than just buying a new unit from scratch.
Right. So would a new unit be 4 more power?
It would depend on how good you want the unit to be. So if you have the rule book, if you look at the military units table, we're on page 111. Guerrillas and scouts both cost +2 points of power. So then you have to figure out what you want their training level to be. Okay. So that would be a total of 3 points if they're green and completely inexperienced, 5 points if they're trained, 7 points if they're veteran, or 9 points for elite. It would cost a little bit less if you just add, you could take your current archers and raise them to veteran, scouts, and archers, and that would cost you 4 points, which you currently have.
Okay, but my thinking is we'll need more men of those skills if we take it, yes. And if we don't take it, we're going to need more men of those skills to defend and get it and push into it. So
the main thing to know here is that scouts are not really fighters. They have good. You can see on 111 the skills they're trained in. Scouts have awareness, endurance, and stealth. They're good at sneaking and perceiving and surviving in the woods.
I was thinking guerrilla, actually. I know I said scout.
Guerrillas have marksmanship. So they're good with, they use like ranged weapons, like throwing axes and spears.
Yeah. Okay. Forest foot.
Yeah, exactly. They're not really hand-to-hand fighters, but they're pretty good with like thrown spears and stuff, or slings. And you could raise guerrillas. You can also combine 2 kinds of training, which is what I was talking about with your archers. If you wanted to, like you could take Corlin's best and add scout to them, and they would get endurance and stealth in addition to the marksmanship they already have. Or you could add guerrilla to them, and they would get athletics and stealth.
What do you think, Corlin? James, did you step away?
He's muted, so I think he may have. He turned off his camera too. I think he might be away from the desk right now.
Oh, right.
But that's right. You can debate it because whatever you decide to do, if you decide to do that, it will take months, right? Like raising a new military unit does not happen instantly. But if you want to just have Corlin and Benjamin lead a scouting party into the woods, we can do that.
We're definitely doing that.
We can do that next week.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that.
Sounds good.
I mean, we're here. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, sorry. I've been getting called away the last 30 minutes. I apologize.
Right. I think what Garrett was asking Lord Ricard was asking you is do you want to take the current archers and train them more to also be scouts and teach them endurance and stealth or athletics and stealth? Or would it be better to raise a new unit of just guerrillas or scouts and not double train the archers?
I mean, Corlin would be. So the real question is, do we need 100 scouts?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. You want it to be another military unit or not? Yeah.
Yeah. And look here real quick because there's
training your archers up would have an additional side benefit of making your archers more loyal. It would raise their morale, right? Make them easier to win. So it's really all a matter of, do you want fewer better or more not as good? You want quantity or quality? It's kind of the decision, which you'll have to make.
Yeah, and
Well, anyway, so we have only a few minutes left, so I want to get to one last thing before we wrap up for the night. But as you guys are chatting, Lady Aliana does ask, so, Ricard, I understand you have a sister.
I do.
I heard she's quite beautiful.
Yes.
And unmarried.
Also true.
Will, you see Garrett's ears perk, like he suddenly turned into an elf. How come I haven't heard about this beautiful Lady Tanner?
That'd be Ivy, right?
Yes, Ivy.
Okay. I do.
Well, I realize that our negotiations are quite early, and we have bandits to destroy and a serious threat to the lands to conquer and a king to persuade and many other things. But, well, she's about Garrett's age. Perhaps they should meet. See how they get along.
I agree.
We're flattered you'd consider us. It's
we can make arrangements for that.
Excellent. Well, it's done then.
What season are we in? Time of year?
Well, I mean, it's always autumn in Westeros now. Westeros is one of those weird places where the seasons do not actually turn, right?
Coming up to any kind of special holiday or anything? Or
Well, you guys have festivals every 3 months.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't realize that, Jason. I knew there was like a long winter, but I thought we still had some variations of snow and everything.
Right. Yeah. So this is the weird thing about Westeros, is that Westeros clearly does not orbit the sun. Okay? Because its seasons last for years. And they're irregular in length. So it's just like spring for years, and then it's summer for years. And right now it's been a very long time since the last winter. And so there's an entire generation, like Will, who have grown up that have never known winter, which is really unusual. Like normally the seasons progress kind of, fairly regularly. But in this case, it's been a very long summer. Like most of Will's life. Will's entire life has been summer. So that's one of the reasons why we can't I don't even think the months have names in Westeros, because the whole understanding of time is kind of different. Like people don't really track time in Westeros. It's just summer. It's summer forever. it's kind of weird. But you have festivals every few months.
Yep. All right. Might be a good time to arrange a meeting at the next festival.
Garrett says, I love this plan.
Okay.
What does she like? Will? What's she like?
I think she's exactly your type.
You are so lying. Are you lying on purpose or are you wrong?
Oh, I thought you said she's I guess I don't know much about Ivy.
That's all right. That's okay. I'm not going to make you change what you said, because what you said is fucking hilarious.
I thought you said she's really beautiful or something. I was just going
beautiful, yeah, but she's like so not like the back one night stand kind of gal. She carries a dagger in her bodice. And trying to push themselves on her. All right.
She's perfect for you, Garrett. I'm sure she'll be very responsive.
Oh, I like that. I like that word, responsive.
No, so she reads.
Yes. Responsive.
All right. Well, I was all prepared to have Aliana do an intrigue to persuade you to have her son have Garrett meet. But you're like, sure, okay, so that resolves that problem.
Is there a reason I wouldn't want that?
Well, I mean,
they're minor, right?
They're a lower house. They're lower status than you. So, and Garrett's a bastard. So Garrett is beneath Ivy's station. That's the obvious thing. Now, that may or may not matter to you. And then also you have to decide Ricard, how you are going to deal with Ivy's single status. Are you going to, do you see her marriage as a tool of House Tanner? Or are you intending to let her marry for love? Like, is she going to get to pick who she marries? Or do you see her as an asset of the house and you're going to marry her off for political reasons?
Heck, she's already 25. Jeez.
She is. So, and in some senses, this plot is really just kind of here to make you decide what you want to do about her.
Sure.
But yes, she is 25. But so but you can decide whatever you want to do about that.
Right. Well, I don't think they'll hit it off. So
that's what I'm counting on.
But I figure I can say, okay, well, we'll give it a try.
Yeah, very good.
Puts me in their favor.
Well, we'll get to try Garrett's seduction intrigue on Ivy Tanner another day. Okay, so everybody take 4 XP, and we will probably pick up next game with the reconnaissance mission into the forest.
Sounds great.
Will, do you want to go on that? I mean, you're not incompetent at arms.
I'm not. I'm hesitant, but I have a feeling my father's going to send me out there.
Okay, all right, good.
I don't think I have much choice.
Let's presume that one way or the other Will goes, like maybe under force, but let's make him go. So that leaves Ricard. Ricard, I think this is a good time for you, Garrett, to play a red shirt.
Okay.
Okay, is that all right?
It's fine.
Because often Ricard's kind of the star of the show a lot, and I want to make sure everybody else gets a turn. I don't want people to feel like it's the Ricard Tanner show.
But that was one of my concerns.
Yeah. So let's give you a red shirt. You're going to play Ensign Leibowitz next week, and I want somebody to be sure to send him off by himself. Okay, like send him behind that big rock over there.
Can he play Stefan?
Stefan Long.
I think it's important for him to die to show us that the situation is serious.
Done. All right, that's okay. It's decided. Yes. So, Garrett, you're going to play Stefan Longarm, who's stats on the wiki. He's a good shot with a bow. He's just a 14-year-old kid.
That's the red shirt?
Oh. Yeah.
So don't kill
I like that guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exact. This is Game of Thrones, man. Like, the more you like the character, the more likely he is to die.
All right.
All right. So, and I'm not sure who else will be joining us next week. We may get Dawn, we may not. If she joins us, we'll have her play a red shirt for the week as well.
I don't think we asked Tanner whether or not he can go later.
Tanner, can you meet an hour later instead of meeting at our current time, or is that bad for you?
Yeah, later works. Earlier maybe iffy.
Well, we might be able to get Dawn more often if we move our game an hour later.
Okay.
So let's do that from now on. Let's plan on that. We're gonna move because everybody can do it. So we're gonna push the game 1 hour later. So instead of being 7 to 9 Eastern, it's gonna be 8 to 10.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have better chance of getting the lovely Lady Tanner in the game.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna turn off the button, and then if anyone's got questions for me, yes.
I just want to say again, thanks, Dale. Thanks for watching.
Hey, thanks, man. Absolutely.
Thanks for watching.
I'm gonna put Dale in the scouting party as a scout. I think he definitely needs it.
Nice.
I can't promise he won't die though, because it's Game of Thrones.
Dale's a common name.
It could be a second Dale, like Dale the younger. Okay.
Daryl, this is my brother Dale. This is my other brother Dale.
Yes, exactly. Good. All right. All right. Thanks, guys.